Hello, everybody, and a really warm welcome to today's Sector Spotlight on climate action and sustainability. It's great to see so many of you here joining us from all around the world. We've had actually quite a bit over 2,000 of you register for today's event, so thank you for being part of that community. This event is brought to you by the Alumni UK Network and the British Council, and we're really pleased to have you with us. My name is Helen Etheridge-Arbib, and I'm the global lead for Alumni UK, speaking to you today from London. And for those of you who are new to the Alumni UK Network, it's here for anybody who was an international student with a UK higher education institution. So you're part of a big global community. And our aim is relatively simple, we think, to help you stay connected to each other, to the UK, and also to opportunities that support your professional journey, whatever that might be. So today's session is part of our wider Sector Spotlight series, which we run throughout the year. And these are designed to give international UK alumni a clearer picture, we hope, for different sectors, what careers actually look like in practice, and how you might position yourself to move forwards. And that could be whether you're starting out in your career or perhaps pivoting later on. So we try to focus on real world insights, quite honest conversations, and plenty of time, we hope, for questions as well, because none of it is a straight line when you're talking about careers. So there's lots to talk through. And climate action sits really quite centrally within our own programming throughout the year, and that's really deliberate. It's obviously one of the most urgent global challenges for all of us, but it's also an area where we feel that alumni can actually have a real influence. With the support and the connections and the platforms that we can provide to you through Alumni UK, there's a lot of scope for alumni to contribute, whether that's through your own careers, but also in the opportunities we provide, for example, through climate action grants, which you'll be able to find out more information about on the Alumni UK website as well. You'll see on the screen in a moment an example of how this kind of impact from alumni is recognised through the Study UK Alumni Awards, which are also delivered by the British Council. These awards celebrate the achievements of international UK alumni around the world, including many who are leading change in things like sustainability, science and social action, but far beyond that too. And if this is something that maybe resonates with you, I would really encourage you to take a look after today's session. The call for applications will open on the 1st of September. So do have a look. On the screen there is the list of countries as well, where we'll be holding national level award ceremonies over the coming year. Alongside the sector spotlights that you're here for today, Alumni UK offers a range of support as well, from online professional development sessions for recent graduates to deeper dives into working practices in different regions of the world. We had one in the UK, we'll have one in India and elsewhere as well. And we also are doing more around communities of practice. So we're about to launch communities for those of you who are interested in climate action, but also those who are interested in disability inclusion as well, whether or not you have lived experience of disability. And as I was mentioning, we provide small grants for alumni to take forward community projects as well, linked to the Sustainable Development Goals. And all of this is designed really to create space for collaboration between all of you and learning and impact, of course. So this Climate Action and Sustainability Spotlight today brings together alumni and experts and practitioners to explore three key pathways to climate impact. So that's careers, policy and entrepreneurship. And whether, as I say, you're already working in this space or thinking about transition, or simply exploring how your skills might contribute to the green transition, today's sessions are really designed to give you quite practical and grounded perspectives. And we really hope some inspiration too. So we're looking forward to the conversations, hearing your questions and your reflections. Please do engage. That's the wonderful thing about these sessions. And thanks again for joining us. I'm going to hand over to my wonderful colleague, Maria Zakali, who's based in Greece. She's our Programme Development Manager within Alumni UK, and she's going to tell you a bit more about this first session. Thanks, Maria. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Helen. Hello, everyone, and very warm welcome from me as well to our first session today, which is on navigating the green economy. Helen has already made it introduction. I'm based in Greece, Maria Tsakali, and I'm the Program Development Manager of the Alumni UK Global Program. I'm truly delighted to welcome you as well, and we're really very, very pleased to see so many of you joining us today. What are we going to do over the next hour? Over this session, we'll be exploring what the green economy really looks like in practice, where the opportunities are emerging, and what it takes to build a meaningful career in this fast evolving space. We'll also hear directly from our wonderful panel, sector leaders and practitioners who are shaping this work every day. To begin, I'm very pleased to introduce our chair for the session. We are joined by Helena Tinker, Global Head of Environment and Climate at the British Council. Helena leads the organization's global climate change strategy and brings nearly 30 years of experience as an environmental scientist working across sustainability roles in multiple sectors, including higher education, local government, and international programs. Without further ado, I'll now hand over to Helena to open the session and guide us through today's discussion. Helena, over to you.
Thank you, Maria, and welcome everyone again. I'm really pleased to be chairing this panel and session today. We've got a fantastic set of speakers, so let me introduce them to you. So first of all, we have Martin Baxter. He is the Deputy CEO at ISEP. So if you haven't heard of ISEP, it's the Institute of Sustainability and Environmental Professionals, an organisation which is driving the transition to a sustainable future by supporting green skills and careers. I've actually been an ISEP member since I started my career 30 years ago, and I would say it's been invaluable in terms of the support it's given me. Secondly, we have Diane Emerson, a climate and sustainability leader at ARUP Consulting, who works across multiple regions with major organisations and governments on climate and sustainability challenges. And then finally, we have Dr. Sarah Qureshi, an aerospace engineer, inventor and co-founder and also CEO of Aero Craft, who are developing eco-friendly jet engines. She really is a global role model for women in STEM. So welcome to the panelists as well. So before we get started, I thought it would be useful to get a sense of where you all are in your careers. So we've got a poll for you to complete. If the team can launch the poll. I'll give you a few minutes to fill that in. So what best describes your current stage in your career? Oh, interesting. Okay, so we have quite a lot of early career professionals and a significant amount of mid and senior professionals. So that's a really good range actually, and also some students and career changers. Career changers is really interesting. Okay, well, thank you for that. Right, okay, so we're going to move on to the first part of the session today. So I'd like to firstly explore the green economy and where the opportunities really are. So Martin, if we can kick off with yourself, what is the green economy and where are the biggest opportunities right now in terms of sector and in-demand roles?
Thanks, Helena. And just by way of thank you for organising this. I think it's a really fantastic initiative by British Council and your alumni network. So really pleased to be here. So green economy, what is it and how does this apply in the context of opportunities for careers? I think traditionally the green economy has been seen as the part of the economy which is really focused on environmental protection, climate protection, energy, waste resources. So we see, a huge amount of activity in that, and over time that has grown. I think you can't hide at the moment from the fact that there is significant development in clean technologies. So whether that's renewables such as wind, small scale and large scale solar, hydro, etc. So there's a lot happening in that sector. Or that part of the green economy. It's also important that we don't just focus on climate, because we have significant challenges in other parts of our green economy as well. So that includes water, in terms of water resources, under threat in many parts of the world in terms of just water availability. And then, of course, we have too much water in parts of the world as well. I mean, lots of parts of the world, it's raining here. And so being able to deliver protection from flooding and extreme weather events is also part of it. And then, of course, just access to hydration and sanitation, dealing with waste and materials. So there are many different parts of what you might call that green sector, which then offers up a lot of job opportunities and career opportunities for people. We're going through a big transition at the moment, particularly energy transition. And with that comes significant investment in infrastructure. And so there's lots of work going on to deploy these new clean technologies at pace and scale. Geopolitical events are changing that dynamic as we speak. And so that then offers up a lot of opportunities. So, big demand for project managers just to get all of this stuff helped to be delivered. Lots and lots of opportunities across a wide range of engineering disciplines, whether that's in kind of civil engineering, because there's kind of a lot of big works going on here, there, and everywhere. Also, I think it's worth highlighting that as part of this transition, then there's a big drive towards electrification. And therefore, people with electrotechnical skills are going to be really important when you think about electrification of transport and mobility, electrification of kind of heat and more industrial use of electricity as kind of the basis on which sectors are being powered. So we see those as being kind of big opportunities for a wide range of people and disciplines, not just those people who are focused, like my background, like your background, Helena, as people who've kind of got a core environment kind of learning and development pathway. But I also want to highlight this other really important factor, is that as well as the green economy, and I've heard this word used a couple of times already, sector, the reality is that the challenges that we face on climate and sustainability means that we need to weave green careers and green skills through all sectors of the economy. So we can't have food and drink without dependency on natural capital. So, for soil, we need access to water, we need biodiversity and pollinators. All of that is part of this kind of green economy thinking that looks at dependencies on nature and the natural environment. And so we see all sectors of the economy having green jobs as part of them as well. So it's quite an interesting development. And I would say over the last 5 to 10 years, it's changed quite significantly. So the clean tech sector has grown significantly. The weaving of environment and climate thinking into all other sectors is happening at pace and scale. There's big drives, for example, in the financial services sector, because they understand that climate-related risks impact on all parts of our economy, all parts of society, and therefore they have to really understand and price in that. And so they have a really significant understanding, need a significant understanding of how they do that. And so there are green jobs being woven into that sector as well. So exciting times, and hopefully we can unpack it in this session.
Yeah, so touching every sector really, which is really interesting and exciting, and sounds like there's lots of opportunities, a lot more than there were 30 years ago when I started. So yeah, that's really positive. So moving to yourself, Diane, what are you seeing in consultancy in places like ARUP, and which roles are in demand in particular in consultancy?
Helena, and thank you, everyone. It's lovely to join you this morning. I'm going to start by just picking up on that thread of Martin and
Sure.
yourself, actually, that what we're talking about the green economy, it is no longer that separate corner of the economy. It is a part of every sector, and whether that's energy or transport or water or property or infrastructure. And I think the trends and the data around the jobs and the opportunities are absolutely showing that clear direction of travel. It's a growing part of our labour market, and it's not just the passing trend. And for those of us who've been around, as you said, a decade or two, then absolutely it's great to see that continuing in that way. I think for us, where I sit in consultancy, I work for ARUP. We are a global practice around the world that delivers major infrastructure, delivers work in our cities, delivers work for organizations and businesses across almost every sector. The shift that we're seeing from those clients is about moving from ambition to implementation. So 5 or 10 years ago, we were being asked, what can you write in a strategy? What can you say you will do? Now we're being asked, how do we do this? How do we fund it? How do we govern it? How do we measure it? And how do we work it out in practice? And that creates a demand for skills and for people right across the whole chain, whether that's at strategy and evidence levels, right through to design, delivery, reporting, behavior change. It's not just about the carbon footprint, it's about the real projects, the real assets, the real investments. And it's in that space where we see work on our major infrastructure or city projects where it's not just about, if you like, the nice to have, the green sort of tinge across the project. It's absolutely fundamentally fixed into early stage decisions on investment, on risk, on resilience, and it's right across the spectrum of issues, whether that be carbon and climate change, yes, but as Martin says, also about nature. It's also an increasing component around the wider social value context and equity and inclusion as well. So for us, we need deep technical expertise. If you're going to do it, you need to understand how to do it. So that's climate risk and resilience specialists, ecologists, circular economy specialists. But we also need an awful lot more, oh, as my lights go out, we also need an awful lot more integrators as well. People who connect across the disciplines and connect clients to good decisions, the trade-offs, the understanding of what needs to be done. So it's quite an exciting time. Lots of career paths that are there, not always the classical pieces that come from an environmentalist background, as has been said, but really, I guess for me, it's about finding where we can, the things that you're most motivated by, whether that be resilience, nature recovery, fairer cities, clean energy. And there's so many different routes that you can take in that. It's using that passion to then find your own path.
Thank you, Diane. Yeah, I do feel like every organisation at the moment is going through a transition, and they may not necessarily have the skills in-house. That's why I think consultancy is so important. I know we're using consultants at the British Council to support us on our journey, so that's really interesting. So just moving over to Sarah, I know your background is engineering and green tech. I'm interested in what the opportunities are and that you're seeing in green technology and in particular entrepreneurship.
Okay. Yeah, I consider entrepreneurship as the best route in transitioning towards a green economy because one, it offers flexibility because, sustainable solutions are sometimes radical, unconventional. You need unconventional business practices, business development, business models, products, and sometimes in comparison to large companies and corporates or governments where adaptation to sustainability is slow, entrepreneurship on a small scale offers you that flexibility. Entrepreneurs can develop small, flexible green solutions. They can develop pilot projects for corporates and governments, and they are not hindered by corporate policies or government policies directly. And then they can introduce green products and green solutions as mainstream alternatives in the market. So I think it's a very productive and a very optimum way of entering into the green economy, or even for larger organizations to adopt to green solutions. And two, it's always it's more rewarding as well for the entrepreneurs if they start on this.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. So we're just going to move to another poll, if that's okay. I'm interested in your thoughts on the green economy and which sector interests you most. So if we could launch the audience poll, that would be fantastic. Okay, do we have any results? Oh, wow, interesting. So quite mixed, really. I think obviously sustainable finance and ESG seems to be the top area of interest, and then consulting and policy. Any reflections from the panel on that? That's quite interesting.
I think it's really encouraging, actually, because it comes back to the point that I made and Diane made as well around, all sectors of the economy are really important. And you don't get anywhere without money and finance in this day and age. So, and it does reflect that interdependence, I think, as well. So from my perspective, seeing that kind of breadth is really encouraging, actually, because it does chime well with this integration of sustainability and climate thinking in all sectors of the economy. And they all have a role to play, both in terms of protection, but also resilience and risk management as well. So that's really encouraging, because we do need lots of people working at scale and pace in all of those sectors.
Yeah. Thank you, Martin. So sort of building on that, we're now going to move to the next session, and this is really about the skills and knowledge that you require to sort of thrive in the green economy and sustainability and environmental roles. So the Institute of Sustainability and Environmental Professionals, I'll just say ISEP from now on, just so to make it shorter. They've actually mapped out 13 key areas that really matter. I think it was based on input from members, wasn't it, Martin? And also employees as well. So I'm interested in sort of what they were. If you can give us a quick overview, Martin, of those skills that were identified and the knowledge areas for everyone, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, sure. So our sustainability skills map, and actually we're looking at it again because we're constantly looking at what's needed in the future. But we first developed it in around about 2010, I think. So it was kind of quite ahead of its time at that point. But what we recognise is that from a sustainability perspective, what we need is change makers, because the status quo and how things are being done, the way in which work is manifesting itself, isn't getting us to where we need to be. And so we looked at all the elements that are needed to bring that together. So the first is that, yes, we need people to have that core knowledge and understanding of broad aspects of sustainability around climate, around the Earth's natural systems and processes, the way in which society and people interact with the environment, the interface between environment and business, etc. Social aspects as well. So there's that kind of core knowledge around those fundamental understanding. Secondly, and Diane touched on this, technical knowledge is really important as well. There's a whole plethora of different tools and techniques that people can use in order to help to drive towards sustainable futures. So whether that's There are those measurement and assessment tools like environmental impact assessment for new projects and developments, whether it's eco-design, whether it's life cycle assessment, environmental management systems, whether it's some of those core principles that really help organisations guide their actions. So things like the precautionary principle, polluter pays, proximity principle, legislative and policy and standards. There's lots of, I chair a group in ISO responsible for a lot of standards, and so setting technical standards and using those standards. But then really what matters as well are the skills that help you to transform what you know and understand into driving action. And it's that driving action which is critical. So whether that's your leadership skills, your communication skills, your skills in terms of working in partnership and collaboration, actually that's really, really important and often not taught very, very kind of well or clearly. So analytical thinking, systems thinking, and we refer to those skills as being both transformational and transitional skills. So and they're transferable. So they're not common just to people working in sustainability. Project managers, people working in finance, people working in ops will have quite a lot of these skills as well. But they are the things that, from an employer perspective, are really important, because it takes your passion, your insight, your knowledge, and says, okay, well, what are you going to do with it? And you got to work with people internally. You got to work with stakeholders. You got to build a business case. You got to communicate in lots of different ways, and so that package helps to bring together what we would call a rounded sustainability professional. And that's worked really, really well. And it's the basis then which we set all of our competency standards for our membership levels and delivering our continuing professional development. We work with a lot of universities, so I'm sure that some of the people on the program will have been on some of the programs that we accredit that link to our membership standards and to other professional bodies as well. So I think that framing is really important. And certainly when we speak with employers, it's okay, well, have you got coverage of all of those skills? Have you got gaps in your team? How do you start to fill those gaps? Are there professional development programs that people can go on to support that as well? So that's how we've put together that skills map and start to think about how it's being used, not just by individuals mapping out their careers, but also thinking about what does that mean for employers, building teams in organisations that can collaborate and deliver change at pace and scale.
Thank you, Martin. And have employers used the skills map to develop sort of job roles and job descriptions? Have you seen that sort of happening across the sector?
Yeah, we see it in a couple of different contexts, actually. So we see quite a lot of organisations that have had a really disjointed approach to how they kind of look at sustainability and environmental roles across their organisation. So particularly some of the kind of large organisations. And so what this has helped them to do is to think more systematically around how they create effective teams and understand what they really need and be able to benchmark roles and functions utilising those. So we see them using that. Secondly, we see them using skills gap. We've got kind of an organisational skills gap assessment tool as well, which is utilised both to look at their sustainability and environment teams, but also then look at the wider workforce as well. And we published some work, some research and some tools with Deloitte a couple of years ago called Green Workforce Transformation, recognising that if you're kind of working in a sustainability role, in part you are only as good as everybody else around you who are going to do a lot of the work on implementation. And so being able to win their hearts and minds, demonstrate how embedding sustainability in their work helps them to be more successful in the outcomes that they're trying to achieve as well. So weaving that through and then what skills and capabilities they need. So yeah, we're definitely seeing employers utilising both the skills map and kind of and that workforce planning tool to really kind of build organisations that are not just going to survive this transition, but hopefully thrive as well.
Yeah, I think sort of through my career, I've the skills that I've had to use and develop definitely sort of systems thinking. I'd say influencing has been a huge part of what I've had to use because you're working with lots of different sectors and trying to influence others to make that change happen in different organizations. So yeah, really resonated with some of the things you were saying, Martin. So building on that, and reflecting on that, Diane, from a consultancy perspective, which of those sort of skills really stand out? And looking ahead, are there sort of new emerging skills that people should be thinking about? Obviously, AI is huge at the moment. So yeah, interested in your perspective on those two areas.
Thanks. And just as I sit here in our head office, the foresight to have automatic lights that turn off if you're in a room far too still to save the energy. It's the first all electric building
You
in
have to keep
London.
waving your
So
hand,
I do.
Diane.
If you see it, apologies in advance that the lights go out, but it's it's the inevitability of trying to be more sustainable in our operations. Um, from a consultancy perspective, I guess in terms of the skills, the ability to integrate sustainability really deeply really often doesn't sit in one box. It's climate, it's carbon, it's nature, it's social value, it's economics, it's delivery, it's all of those things. So, for example, a client may ask a carbon question, but the answer might actually be about those energy systems that I've just mentioned. It might be about procurement, it might be about planning, it might be about cost. So the skill isn't just actually in your own subject, but knowing how to work with others to build a really good answer for clients. So technical depth, absolutely. Wholeheartedly support. Technical excellence is critical in everything that we do. And those in-demand areas are in carbon and whole life carbon in particular. Um, Understanding climate risk, the inevitability that we are seeing a changing climate, what is the impact and risk for organizations, whether that be them at a corporate level or at an asset and portfolio level. And then the adaptation planning that comes with that. We still see a lot of demand for environmental and social impact assessments, whether that be within an individual country's regulations or whether that be aligned with lenders and their expectations in the international finance markets. Nature, ecology and biodiversity is really, really growing very fast and a real need for deep knowledge there. But also some of those newer areas around sustainable finance and data analytics and those other pieces. But I guess for me, technical knowledge on its own, we've said, isn't really enough. It's the ability to translate those complex conundrums into really clear advice for what to actually do. Because it's only when we actually encourage our clients to get on and do stuff, do we actually have the positive impact in the world that we want to achieve. And so within that, it means you have to be able to explain uncertainty because we don't always know the perfect answers. We have to be able to make really good recommendations and help understand the consequences of choice. Is one of the things that we talk about is how do we explain the consequences of the choices. So whether that's commercial and delivery skills, really, really important right now, right through into governance and operational skills as well. Systems thinking, completely agree with, and I've spoken already about those interfaces. Is it a flood defence project or is it a biodiversity project? Is it a embodied carbon project or is it a supply chain project? Those interfaces and the understanding of that at a systems level is really important. But you have touched on my hot topic at the moment. I tend to go quite deep on podcasts, really random podcasts when I travel. And at the moment, my rabbit hole is in AI. We've been learning a lot and understanding a lot around what AI means to us in this sector. And it's becoming essential. It's not an optional anymore. AI and digital tools helps us with the large data sets to understand baselines. It helps us model scenarios, interrogate risks, visualize options, automate reporting. It's right across the spectrum of the work that we do. But I think the important thing and the clarity that we're coming to with AI is it doesn't replace judgment. So we still need that strong, ethical, curious approach to understand context in order to make the good recommendations. And so therefore, we're focusing and doubling down in our organization around communication skills, critical thinking skills, and the broader spectrum that means that you're able to give great advice with the knowledge that you have AI and technical expertise. So it almost becomes a T-shaped profile. Real depth in one area, but an ability to map across at a systems level across disciplines. And I guess the final point in noting their profile of attendees, I was just thinking that none of us can stop learning. So whether you're a mid-career or a senior level already, the world is changing really quickly. This field is changing really quickly, whether that be about technology and AI, whether it's about clients, whether it's about scientific evidence. So the strongest skill really is about continuous learning, and really always exploring and being curious about what else is happening.
Great, thank you. Yeah, just speaking about AI, I read a really interesting article in the ISEP magazine, I think it was last month, about how AI is having a huge impact on the environment, but there's still a lot of uncertainties around what that impact is, but then how it can help us to tackle some of the environmental challenges. So yeah, I don't know if we can share a link to that article. It's really, really interesting from both perspectives. So just building on that, Diane, another quick sort of follow-up question, conscious of the people that are on the call as well. People that start at consultancies such as ARUP, do you provide support for them to sort of develop some of the maybe softer skills, the influencing skills? Because I think what you tend to find is, as a early career or graduate, you've got a lot of the technical skills, but not necessarily the softer skills. So I wonder if you can explain what you do to support people through their career journeys on that.
Yes, I guess there's three components in my mind when you ask that question. One is we are absolute advocates of professional membership in the learning. So a nod, like a lifetime member for ISEP. We still remember it as IEMA Martin, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And so that's a really important word. We know that some other disciplines, civil engineering or other things that have a really long legacy. Our career pathways are relatively new and young compared to some other professions. So that ability to really ground yourselves in best practice through professional membership and the learning that comes from that is absolutely critical. I think the other piece about, my continuous learning point is that even if you think you have all the technical knowledge, in a year's time you won't, because you have to keep that learning. So continuing the learning and the technical depth is really important, and whether that be about pursuing opportunities on the job, if you like, in terms of being able to move into newer sort of project opportunities or working with new markets. But in terms of enabling, I guess, us to provide good advice and good enablement for our clients, then that's the broader, softer skills. And actually we run a leadership academy, and we have a piece that is for every member of the organization, whether you're coming in as a graduate right through to the most senior levels. And you can go in and develop your own learning pathways for a broad range of skills, whether that be storytelling skills, because so often we find ourselves sitting in a room across the table from a client, and we're trying to help them understand what we know really well technically as the right answer, but isn't their own, that the client's technical understanding may not be matching that. So we have to be able to tell a story. And help them understand sort of broader context for that decision. We help with the fundamentals of report writing, and of course AI right now is iterating that in an interesting way. But I guess from our perspective, using AI tools, every member in ARUP has co-pilot licenses, for example. We're advocating and encouraging the use of that. But what it does, it means it gives you more time to unlock your own critical thinking. So you're less focused on producing a PowerPoint presentation. You're more focused on, what am I actually trying to say? And how do I say it, and how do I communicate it in that way? So it's quite nice to be able to unlock our capacity by using AI tools to do that. And then we do a lot around commercial management, project management skills, because as I said, this is about delivery now. This is helping our clients deliver. So understanding those interfaces of how to deliver a major resilience program across multiple assets. We use and are very blessed to be in a very multidisciplinary organization. So you learn from peers and others in other professions, whether that be our project management colleagues, whether that be our business investor colleagues. And so that blend that we bring together, we call it total design, this blend of integrated skills to be able to provide the best answer for our clients. We learn from that all the time. So it's formal learning, informal learning, it's technical learning, it's broader consultancy learning, and it's always learning.
Yeah, I feel like I've always been learning through my career, but it sounds like a really good support pathway at ARUP anyway, Diane. So thanks for that. So moving to Sarah. For anyone thinking about going down the entrepreneurial route, what skills and knowledge do you think are essential to start down that route and grow your own business? Obviously, you've got a huge amount of experience in that area.
Okay, so the first thing is that in the entrepreneurial route, in the context of your own domain, of course, you would need the conventional mainstream business skills to start with. More importantly, to identify the vacuum or the green vacuum or the green element for a solution that you need to bring in. I mean, there has to be a context and a comparison. And then you need to have the ability to develop a circular economy model to create value in a green solution and build a business case around it. Because certainly, if we just talk about a sustainable solution, it has very in the context of the business world, it would be, the growth would be very restricted and very limited and confined to government grants. So it's absolutely essential to make a very strong business case and to create that business value out of it. Of course, that to implement that solution, we need of course deep technical knowledge about the green solution, about the conventional solution, to have a comparison with mainstream alternatives. One of the ways is to go for case studies for implementation. And one problem that we see, case studies or success stories for what works, what has worked as an alternative green solution, is generally that green solutions or green products don't scale up. They are introduced on a small scale, and hence they cannot compete with the mainstream alternative. So we also need the skill to scale up, to accelerate growth, and to match volumes. We need the capacity to, or we need to develop the capacity to handle volumes as well. I mean, I can give you one example is with sustainable aviation fuels in my domain. We don't have enough sustainable aviation fuels to fuel the entire aviation industry. So either we come up with other alternates or we find a way to scale it up to the conventional fossil fuel source. And one thing that we can leverage and that entrepreneurs in green domains should leverage is regulation and compliance. Because if you want to compete directly with conventional solutions, it gets difficult in terms of, obviously, environment has a trade. And, if you are getting an environmental edge, it has some kind of a trade-off or some kind of a monetary penalty. So somebody has to be willing to pay for it either, or there has to be a regulation around it, some compliance law, so that OEMs and consumers and producers are willing to pay for it. And one example is the automotive industry. We know that we have very fancy catalytic converters with cars that are powered by hydrocarbon fuels, and that does not pay off in terms of the performance of the cars, but yes, it's an environmental compliance that the manufacturer is paying for as well as the consumer is paying for. So the entrepreneur must know first what the regulations or the compliance is, and then they should be able to leverage it to strengthen their case with the green solution or the green product. And then in the next step, the green product can back up or support, or the green solution can support or lobby for new regulations, because regulations always demand solutions or alternates. As an example, if I say I'm working on contrail-free aero engines, and we say I asked in the regulation framework to pass a regulation on no contrails, and the world cannot stop flying. I have to not offer an alternate. I'll say that I have a solution. I have a contrail-free aero engine, and if this is implemented, you can pass a regulation on no contrails. So I think that's the final step that we. So compliance and regulation is a very key element. In summary, circular economy models, business value, and as I said, that leveraging on regulations as well, because otherwise sometimes it gets very difficult to compete directly.
That's, yeah, really interesting. So I think what you're saying is that regulations can really drive sort of innovation,
Yeah.
and that it's having that foresight really to kind of see where the market's going. But yeah, I think the aviation sector is hugely challenging. So fantastic
It's
that you're
challenging
doing.
because it's also very monopolized. It's highly
Right.
regulated and it's monopolized. So when you're working within the industry, sometimes you have to be, you are drawn into that agenda, which if they choose not to address the environmental issue or the sustainability issue, there's not much that you can do. But when you're working outside the industry and developing your own product, it's very difficult for the industry to dismiss a working solution, and that can support regulations and compliance and policies.
Yeah, so it sort of works both ways. But
Yeah,
congratulations on all the work you're doing. And yeah, we
thank you.
need more people like you to innovate and find solutions to some of the
Thank you so much.
challenges we have. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next part of the session, which is about career pathways and support. But before we do that, I think we've got another poll, and it's about what are the biggest barriers? What do you think are the biggest barriers for entering a green or sustainability career? Just to get a sense of your thoughts around this. Oh, interesting. Very mixed. Not knowing where to start. Okay. Skills and knowledge gaps. That's really interesting. Thank you, everyone. So, Martin, reflecting on that, what are the best ways to get started in this sector? And I'm interested in particular if you can outline the support that ISEP can give to people along the way. Obviously, really valuable from my perspective, but for new sort of careers or changing careers as well.
Yeah, it is interesting to see it across the board. All of those categories scored quite highly. It wasn't one particular standout. It was like everything is, are barriers, and I think that just reflects, the changing context, etc. So, and I did see just on one of the chats, somebody said, what's this ISEP and what's the link? So I'm just going to give the web address, which is www.isepglobal.org. So you can go there. I think there are a few things that we help with. So one is just we do actually have a skills gap assessment tool. So I mentioned our sustainability skills map, and what we do provide is the opportunity for members to look at where they want their career to be, So do you want to become a full member like you, Helena? And you can do a self-assessment, and what will happen is it will score you against all of those 13 competency areas, and it will generate a really detailed, personalized report to you around how well you scored, where there are opportunities to improve your score and your skills, but also then access to a whole set of links of tools and insights and webinars and other aspects where you can help to improve your score. So that's that's fairly new. It's only came out a couple of months ago, but it's a really firm basis that individuals can use both to plot their own individual careers. So what is it that I'm good at? And I think this is really important for employers. It's like, where are your strengths and what are you going to bring to the table in terms of developing your career and getting that opportunity. And don't just think, well, I haven't done a green project, therefore I've got nothing. Because if you look at those outer skills on our skills map, where I talked about those transferable and transformative skills, actually people have possibly got a lot more skills that they maybe don't realize. So it's about highlighting those and bringing those to the fore. Secondly, there's lots of different ways in which you can acquire new knowledge if that's what you need to do for particular roles and functions. And so we help with that as well. And then it's also about being really clear that where there are employment opportunities, it's about tailoring your application to what's actually being asked for by the employer. Interestingly, I did another session last week looking at some of the barriers for young people, and the employers were really clear is that they get a lot of applications for every single job, so it's a competitive landscape. But what they said was that a lot of people don't tailor their CVs to actually what it is that they're asking for. And so that tailoring is really important. And if there is something that you're not particularly strong at, it's not a problem to say that. Because, if we speak, Diane, ARUP have got lots of support programs in place, and it's like they're looking at you as a person and they're not asking for perfection on day one. They're actually asking people to become part of a team and grow into a role and function and actually start to become part of a community of people who are driving change. So I think it's important to just be open and honest about what you have. Clearly, if you can get work experience, either through internships or volunteering or things that you do in your community, all of those really help. I know, for example, obviously lots of people have been to university here in the UK on the programme. The Students' Union did a lot of work with voluntary audits. So they gave the opportunity for people to do environmental audits as part of volunteering through Students' Union and SOS UK. And by doing that, then you build up some practical experience. It makes for a better learning environments on those campuses here in the UK. And there are things like that as well. So we try to bring employer insights into what it is that helps people to be successful. Secondly, we provide learning and development pathways where you can develop more knowledge, understanding on different aspects of sustainability. Because we are multi-sector and we deal with all of these issues, so we have groups working on circular economy, on natural capital and biodiversity, on social sustainability, on sustainable finance, then you have access to a whole range of resources which helps to broaden your insight, and hopefully you can bring that to bear when you're applying for roles and going along. Finally, just on that career changer, what we do see is that there are different routes into the sustainability profession. So there's a traditional route, which I went through even longer ago than you did, Helena, by learning about sustainability. So that was like an environment, and that was my undergraduate and postgraduate qualifications. And then I had to build up the business skills around that to have a leadership role and all the rest of it. A lot of people come with those transformational and transitional skills, and actually it's the core knowledge and understanding and some of the technical things that they need to understand and build on as career changers. So there are different ways in which you can start to build up your learning, but using things like the sustainability skills map helps you to understand what you've got as strengths and where you need to focus on upskilling and learning and development to become that kind of rounded professional.
Thank you, Martin. I think someone's put the link to ISEP in the chat. I just wondered,
Brilliant.
just to sort of finish off, could you just explain sort of how the membership works, just very sort of briefly, so people are clear?
Yeah, so the first thing is that if you are a student, or if you were a student on one of our core programs, then actually you become a student member automatically as part of your learning. We also have graduate members, and then as people develop their experience and expertise, then they can kind of go through those membership levels. So associate members, practitioner members, people who've got lots of experience of doing kind of hands-on work on projects, etc. And then when we come to full members and chartered environmentalists and our fellows, then they're in leadership positions where they've got quite a lot of experience of delivering on environmental improvements and sustainability programs. So there's a well-established set of pathways for people, and you can, if you already have experience and you want to come in at a higher level, then you can do. So we don't require you to just jump through every hoop. It's like understand where you are in your career at this point in time, and you can apply straight in. And they're all underpinned by peer review assessments, which can include online interviews with other experts as well.
Mm-hmm. And I believe you hold a sort of annual sort of networking conference as well, don't you, Martin?
Yeah, we have something called ISEP Connect, which is a free conference for members. Yeah, and it's worth saying we have individual members in around about 125, 130 countries. So we are, a global network of people working in sustainability and environment roles, which is really exciting. And people work in all sectors of the economy. So whether they're working in finance and and that, so financial services, whether they're in property, real estate, built environment, transport, logistics, food and drink, manufacturing, consultancy. We work with a lot of people in government, both in terms of policy, but also in delivery. So whether it's health service, transport, those government departments that actually kind of partners with us because they realize that they've got to deal with all of these things. So, and the ability to learn from people from other sectors is really important. And then secondly, knowing that you're not alone. So sometimes you can find that actually you're only one or two sustainability people in your organization. And therefore it can be a little bit lonely. And so having a network of other people that you can reach out to, are they going through the same challenges that you have? Have they got through those challenges? And they're, we're a real sharing community of ideas and solutions, and that gives you confidence. And I think confidence is really, really important. Final thing is that we do run a network, a mentoring system. And some of our mentees who are on a program for people from marginalized and underrepresented groups, where we pair them with an expert and somebody who's got a lot of experience and expertise, actually they found that, in their words, life-changing, because where they thought they had lots of barriers and there was a problem, actually they've been able to unlock that and they've been able to accelerate their careers, and that gives me a lot of pride actually in people and hope for the future. So that's great.
So that mentorship sort of program, that's available to members once people join. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean it's we're looking at how we scale it up, because we did get some support from Strathclyde University actually to do some work in that area, and then we've piloted it a couple of times, and now we're looking to see how we scale that up in different ways. And generally what I found, I'm not looking at you two, Diane and Helena, but people are really happy to support people. where they get the opportunity. There's obviously kind of a capacity issue, but we're a friendly bunch. And we try and help people to connect, and mutual support is really important in this.
Yeah. Well, we could put my name down, Martin, because I think I had a mentor when I was sort of going through my career. It was more of an informal mentor, but I think it does you need that sort of support, and like you said earlier, it can be very lonely, and I found that ISEP was so fantastic for networking, and sometimes you think, oh, I've got an idea, I'm not sure whether this is the right way to go, and you can run that idea by sort of people in the network. So yeah, thank you for that. So moving to Diane, how would someone typically begin their career in consultancy? Obviously, you can make reference to ARUP. I don't know if you have a graduate program, or if you could explain a little bit more about that.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the typical, because there isn't one. There's no single correct route into this world. From personal experience, I started off studying chemistry. I love science, so that's what I studied. And I did some work in the laboratories and realized I needed to get out of the sterile environment into the real world, because that was where my passion was. And that's when I pivoted and did more study with a further master's program in environmental engineering, which was a natural bridge, I guess, from science into engineering, and then from that into the world of work. And then subsequently studied business so I could understand my clients' organizations and my own organization even better as well. So I guess the typical piece isn't really true. And if I think of my colleagues in our organization, we have in the world, we have about 1,000 who declare themselves as primary workers in sustainability, environment and climate. And then we have a myriad of others who do work in this space alongside other primary careers as well. But I guess, the typical routes through are environmental science, it's engineering, it's planning, it's architecture, but more we're seeing social policy and social sciences, data, economics, those kind of backgrounds really kind of coming to the fore. So from an early careers perspective, we have our own graduate entry program. We also run internships. We are real supporters of apprenticeship programs as a way to blend study and the working world as well. And those are open, and I will say they are really popular for application. So it is an interesting one to kind of navigate, because there's always more appetite than we have capacity, is the reality of that. But I think in terms of I guess the pursuing of those opportunities, one of the issues that we find is actually the simple thing of job titles. There are so many job titles being used in this space, whether you're in an ESG space or whether you're a climate person or whatever that title may be. And I guess what I'd say is don't always sort of rely on the perfect job title to be the thing that you search for first. Have a think about what your passion is about. I'm blessed to be working with an array of really wise people who are here because they want to make a difference for nature, because they understand and want to respond to climate, because they want people to be at the center of the work that we do. And so that passion then is the piece that you search for. So look for that first, and then the job title will come afterwards. In terms of sort of reviewing those applications, I heard someone say recently, it isn't necessarily what's on your CV of the work that you've done or the study you've had. It's what you did in between your study. It's what you did in your summer project, to Martin's point. Did you volunteer? Did you go out and have an opportunity to go and do a piece of research on something? Those sometimes are the things that are most important, and particularly even in terms of career changing or in taking sort of spaces in between. What have you done there that shows you have that appetite and that passion? And for us, one of our key phases is, where have you shown the curiosity to go out and find and understand something perhaps that isn't in your space. So the space, make sure when you're submitting those CVs and other things, highlight what you've learned in the in-between spaces as much as the big chunks of your career or your learning as well. The transferable skills is really critical. Just as a side story, I was talking to one of our mid-career colleagues, and he said that when he left university, he found it quite difficult to get a role. So he decided to go for a sustainability role in the royal household in Buckingham Palace. Didn't get that one, but managed to get a butler to the Queen instead. And did that for 2 years. But in that, then he learned a lot about how he presented himself, how he communicated, and other skills that then allowed him to pivot back in again and has some wonderful stories about what it was really like inside the royal households. But again, that sort of the unexpected career journey is absolutely wonderful because people bring that breadth of diverse thinking then into how they work and how they support our clients. I think in terms of the final piece for me is just about it's okay to not to have your whole career mapped out as my lights go out again. I might pivot around just so the daylight keeps coming. Don't worry if it's not all mapped out. Did I expect to be where I am today? No, I would never have forecasted it. But that's okay. That's the wonderful journey of life.
I think the same here. I think you, as you go through your career, you kind of really pick on areas that you enjoy, and it might change your direction. But thanks, Diane. Really good advice. So finally, moving to Sarah. Really interested in your journey and what made the biggest difference to you, and what advice would you give to people that are just starting out, really?
Okay, I think the first fundamental aspect is that you have to be part of a climate aware ecosystem, a system, and a sustainability mindset. UK and Europe do take the lead, and we do have that. We know that it's also reflected in the universities and also in different companies. Because, for example, at Cranfield, although I was at the School of Aerospace Propulsion Department, and jet engines have reached the epitome of technology, and one option is to look into fuel optimization, or more profits for the airlines, or in simple terms. But rather, the department was offering research questions for PhDs on making eco-friendly jet engines, making jet engines smoke-free, making them pollution-free. So I think that's a very critical starting point in terms of the it has to be aligned with the curriculum and the education, and of course with the general public awareness as well, because when you go into, as entrepreneurs, when you go to seek investment in green solutions, there has to be the investor's mindset has to be on those lines as well. He has to be green aware, he has to be sustainability aware. And then what helped me in parallel to that was exposure to clean tech and green tech conferences, where they had the business element, but they also had the sustainability element, and there was the concept of some green equity, which is important, and having green financing, climate funds, sustainability funds, because sometimes, and one of the important aspects is also that we need more transparency in the industry with their business practices and their processes, whether they are green or not. I think that's one of the critical elements. Moving on to your second part was about, for people who are starting out, one thing that we need to be, one thing is that we don't need to be hesitant from radical innovation. It's okay. It's okay to deviate from mainstream practices, and also from mainstream industry, because sometimes the end user might not be the end user industry might not be the industry supporting you. as an example, I know that, Boeing and Airbus and Rolls-Royce, they're all making planes and engines, but they might not be the ones who would be funding my innovation. There might be another climate fund or a green fund or climate tech organization that would fund it, because intuitively we look at the end user to support it. But of course, as I said, that these are big corporates and monopolized and politicized also, so they have their own agendas. And it's also, we can seek funds from sector agnostic funds, which are solely focused on green industry. So, and one thing, and the last I would say is that it's important, as I said, that sometimes larger governments or corporates or industry take very long to adapt to the green practices, or they will not transition. It's a possibility. So the best route is to develop a parallel structure. I mean, you're working as an entrepreneur on your own, you can always develop parallel businesses, parallel solutions, sustainable solutions, and that could later take over the conventional rules. So that's one way I look at it.
I think through my career, I've had to build a lot of resilience, Sarah. I don't know if you've sort of found the same. I'm interested in what's been your sort of biggest challenge, and how have you sort of overcome that?
Okay, so one thing, as I said, is obviously access to the finances, because for developing innovation, you need finances, and then also that to have that kind of a mindset with investors, with developers, with the industry that needs to, with your future customers, with regulators. We need that climate consciousness to a certain level for them to be convinced to make that investment. And it has to be from a different angle. They must, I mean, this is what I face, that we don't accept the environmental trade-off. I mean, an environmental technology might be 2%, 3% more expensive. And then, but the investor, or when we are talking about a business case or investment, they're always looking at, something which is 2% less or cheaper, but that's not the design parameter. That's not the design rubric. It's, we have to be on a planet first mindset. And with that, that has to be the building block or the starting point where we can introduce green solutions into the market. We can convince larger industry to adopt those green solutions. We can get regulations on that. So that's very important. I don't want to be biased, but when I've traveled to US and I've traveled to Europe and UK. So, in the US, I don't find that consciousness. I don't find that awareness or the initiative to go planet first. It's all very consumer oriented, which is unfortunate. Yes, UK takes the lead, Europe takes the lead. And the second thing is that sometimes these technologies, they cannot offer a very quick return. They take their time. There's a development lag, or there's a development time. So we also need to be very far-sighted. We need to think ahead of time. And for example, Europe wants to go into liquid hydrogen propulsion by 2050. So which means that contrail cover would be 3 times what it is now. So we have to start looking at it now. But it would not, sometimes the technology would takes time to develop. It might not give investors a quick return. I cannot become cash flow positive in 2 years. It might take me 7 years or 10 years. That's how technology works.
Yeah.
So all these elements are important, but I think so that's where the challenge is. And then with industries that are very large and monopolized and also very niche, like the aviation problem, smoke emitted into the sky at 10,000 meters, it's all very hidden. And then how it's impacting the sky, it's very specialized knowledge. I've rigored through a PhD on the subject, but yet at times when I talk about global warming due to contrails, I'm dismissed. And I'm also dismissed by people from the industry. So that is a challenge because like when we talk about the ground or we talk about climate change on the ground, it's spread over a spectrum of industries. And there's because it's also visible, there's widespread public awareness, there's public pressure. There are ways to offset. You can grow trees, you can have emission processing plants. There's a lot of transparency, but aviation is the only industry operating in the sky, the only industry polluting the sky. The pollution is more or less hidden. The impact is it's niche. It's very technical. It's very scientific. It's very easy by the industry to dismiss it and not let it be known by other industries or by governments. We cannot grow trees there. We cannot have emission processing plants, and then it's regulated. Anything that goes, so any technology that we put in to eliminate pollution from jet engines in the air has to be on the plane, and it has to be on the engine, and that has to certify for airworthiness. And anything, and it cannot be if it goes on one plane, it goes on all planes. It's a standard, it's standardized. So these are all the different challenges, and mainstream industry is not at the moment as aggressive as it should be to handle these challenges, at least not the commercial industry. Well, we have scattered research on an academic level, maybe some research grants, but it's not the way it should be. And what I want to end it with is that we have different challenges of green technology and sustainability and climate change in different regions of the world, depending on where we are. But we are all under one sky. It's everybody's problem.
Yeah.
And we have to tackle it together.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. It's a really nice way to sort of finish the this part of the webinar. Okay, so we've got a bit of time for questions. Just if the panel could just click on the question icon as well. I'm going to take the first question that's come up. It's if sustainability challenges require interdisciplinary thinking and collaboration, why do employment pathways within the green economy still appear to favour certain academic or professional backgrounds over others? How can the sector better recognise and utilise the diverse skills and perspectives needed to achieve sustainable development goals? So that's a really interesting question. I don't know, Martin, do you want to, I'll ask you to respond to that one, but first, if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not totally convinced by the premise of the question.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is that I see a lot of the sustainability professionals who are members of ISEP and yourselves, a big part of your work is connecting with other people in the organization and supporting them to embed sustainability in their work. So if I think about some of the work that we've done in the food and drink sector has been around, how do you embed climate thinking in procurement? And it's not just about having people who are, experts in sustainable procurement. It's how do you ensure that all procurement is done in a sustainable way, and what are the skills and capabilities, and who do you need to engage within that in order to ensure that you're managing risks in your supply chain. I think that interdisciplinary aspect is there in the work that we do. Similarly with design, I've seen a lot of organizations that have got quite sophisticated eco design, but only on, say, one or two products, and they've had like lots and lots of support from their sustainability teams. But then actually what they then do is start to unpack and say, well, how do we mainstream sustainability thinking and eco design principles in all of the design for all the products and services or activities that we are developing? And what's the interplay between the sustainability team and designers or procurers or material specifiers or whatever it might be? So we do see that, but I think it's when it comes to employers making employment decisions, they still need designers, they still need people with sustainability, they still need people working in finance, and it's about how you then upskill that. So maybe it's because there's a recognition in employer organizations that they will need to convene groups to solve problems and build a system, systems thinking again, is like, how do we bring the right people together to solve some of these challenges? So I'm not sure it's just recruiting the same type of people all the time. Maybe there is, but interesting what other panelists might think. But I think it's around how do those people who are recruited then unlock the expertise and bring people together to solve problems. And one of the things that we do focus on is in the language that we talk about is, a lot of people are concerned, and we talked just about, resilience, personal resilience, and a lot of people are concerned about climate, and you don't have to be a sustainability professional to be concerned about all of these things. But it's how you create agency of people to be part of the solution. I think by starting to think of it like that in organizations, then actually you can kind of convene people who are coming together to solve problems and develop solutions, and that's an opportunity. So maybe a different way of answering that question.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I know in the British Council, there's a huge amount of interest for the space in helping us as an organisation become more environmental sustainability. So we're just about to launch our first carbon literacy course across the organisation, just to start that journey and upskill people in procurement, finance, and other departments really, so they can help me kind of make that transition and change. Any other reflections from Diane or Sarah on that, or I'll move to the next question if not.
I think we could, a bit of a curriculum revision could be explored in universities, and maybe like a mandatory course on carbon literacy or sustainability or green future, green planet, whatever. I think that needs to be looked into. And then there are certain examples. One that I've personally been benefited from is that, when I patented my invention, they have a green route. So usually patent grants, they go through like a long process of 5 years. But if you apply through the green channel for any technology that is for any green technology supporting the environment, it's accelerated, and I got my patents granted within a year with the UK IPO in particular. But there's also like with the US IPO, there's patent prosecution highway. But we could have those kind of green initiatives where it has to be incentivized
Mm.
in some way.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with the university. I know Manchester Metropolitan University in the UK, they're on a journey to embed environmental and carbon literacy into every single degree, so that you
Okay.
come out of that university with some knowledge of what's happening and then apply it to your degree course. So, which I think needs to happen in every university, really, doesn't
Yes,
it?
definitely.
So the education sector's got a journey to go on as well. Diane, did you have any other reflections or?
Um, yeah, I guess from a consulting perspective, there is always a reality that our clients are asking us to do something they can't. And or in any way, whether that's because of capacity or because of capability. And so we are expected to bring a level of deep knowledge that currently does not exist within the client organization. So deep knowledge is really, really important. But I guess I could just come back, particularly at those mid-career levels where we are the T-shaped profile for your career. It's the deep knowledge in something together with the broad knowledge of a lot. And that's a big expectation. But it's the reality of the expectations of our clients that we have to meet. So it's thinking through how can you extend that thinking, the systems thinking, the understanding of the interrelationships between climate, carbon, nature, social equity, as well as building and continuing to build your deep technical knowledge in one particular aspect as well.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to take one final question. If someone could answer this really quickly, could you highlight the technical and non-technical skills required for becoming a sustainability reporting expert in the present context? Someone could answer that in a minute. That would be fantastic. Diane, I don't know.
A
You're
minute.
featuring.
I'm smiling because it's your challenge of understanding the plethora of global standards in
I
ESG
know.
reporting, which are multiplying almost daily at the moment, as well as the ability to pivot and use different narratives and different language. The global geopolitics is where it is at the moment in terms of ESG. It isn't always the terminology that is flavor of the day in many organizations. However, what we're finding is most clients are still doing it anyway. They just talk about it a bit differently. So the soft skills is your storytelling. It's the ability to talk about it a little bit differently, but different language. It's about risk. It's about opportunity. It's not necessarily about ESG and governance. But yeah, keeping up with the plethora of standards is your biggest challenge in that space.
Definitely. Gosh. Yes, I think we've run out of time, so apologies we've not been able to answer any of the other questions. I just want to give a personal thank you to the panel today. I'm going to pass back to Maria, who's just going to sum up and close the session. And thank you for everyone for dialing in as well and listening.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Helena. Thank you very much to all our speakers for this so insightful and so engaging discussion today. And of course, to all of you, to our audience, who have joined us today for your networking that has been happening very actively in the chat, for your engagement and your questions and comments. We do apologize for not being able to answer the many questions that are in the chat, but I hope there will be opportunities, maybe to cover these questions in the coming up sessions. We hope that you have found this session has given you a clearer picture of the green economy, the range of opportunities that are available, and practical ideas for how you can take on your next steps into sustainability careers. Thank you very much indeed. We are now moving on shortly to our next session. Don't forget, Careers in Climate Policy is coming up at 11 GMT. So do stay with us, join the next session as we continue exploring impactful careers in the climate space. Thank you again for being with us today and enjoy the rest of the program.